I believe we are live.
Okay, I didn't know it was up. What up, T Smooth TV? What up, dog? I didn't know we was
What
live.
up?
I heard a little bit of a. I was like, "What's going on?" But yeah,
Oh no.
what's what's good?
Tired, man. Tired as
Yeah,
always.
yeah.
Um,
We
Today was an odyssey getting just the video up. So anyone who hasn't seen it yet, I know you on your channel did your good, bad, ugly. That's kind of like a joint segment we're doing now for Mavs talk. It's kind of like our condensed Mavs post game,
mhm.
and we're basically just taking like instead of breaking down like almost a full game recap the day after because it's already honestly a little sour at that point. It's kind of just like we're just calling out the things that like the trends or the developments, the encouraging signs that we like, or highlighting the things that we think are problematic or just downright ugly in that case. And we're still modifying that. The the process of me getting today's video dropped, the one on my channel where it's both of our kind of parts stitched together and all of that, and I had the box score and all this stuff up there. Like it was cool. Like I like it, but my God, the process of trying
It's,
to do that on the run today
mhm, mhm.
took forever. I don't know. It's been years. Like my previous computer, which was not built for doing this kind of content, since I've had videos that would take hours to render, and I'm like, this isn't even that advanced. Like it's a nice video. I'm gonna pat myself a little on the back. It's a nice video, but I'm like,
Mhm.
there's no reason this should have taken 2 hours. So the whole thing was a challenge. Point of all that being, even though the video didn't drop until like 4 o'clock Central Time, if you guys haven't already, and if you're a glutton for punishment, hearing us talk a little bit more about that 113-111 loss last night against the Pelicans without Zion or Ingram, check out the video. It's about 20 minutes long. Future installments will be shorter. We're going to find a way to condense that, but definitely wanted to shout out this kind of new thing we're doing because that means you guys are getting a lot more content from us moving forward. Like, we're not going to hit every game, but you're going to get a lot more content, not just this one show per
Gonna be
week.
close to it. I'm gonna be on it. We're gonna be close to it. DDP might not do it every time, but I'm gonna be doing damn near every game because I'm watching every game intently. I'm watching, like I told you, I'm immersing myself like I haven't before in a very long time. Like I said, I've been doing so much daggone football. It's just took me away from my basketball, and I'm a hooper too. You feel me? I've been a hooper
Mm-hmm.
for half my life. You know what I mean? I know that game, so it was good to kind of jump back in the water with it. Really start understanding the players. Like, it's not like I didn't know them, but now to really start refreshing and seeing all these young players, the infusing of the young talent that's in there is really interesting to watch. So, I've been watching the scores even before we went live, checking out the players, teams. Like I said, I really want these Magic to win because I love the young squad, but they are just really young. I love how Bobo's over there. That was a great pickup for them picking Bobo up over there. Yeah, I like his game. He's so versatile. He's 7 foot
Yeah.
two. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So they got a lot of young talent. So they over there banging. So it's good just to watch a little around the NBA. And then, like I said, we got our games. We got the New Jersey Nets coming up tomorrow. Uh, I'm gonna definitely be that one because they got players on their team too. But yeah, let's how you want to do it? You want to throw out these Cowboys right quick, Johnathan Hankins, or you want what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
we
then
can we can we
yeah,
can talk on the Cowboys thing real quick because I know we
okay,
mostly have the Mavs talk, so we can talk the
right,
Cowboys
right.
thing real quick just to get that out there and then kind of move into the Maverick stuff. Lead the way on that. Cowboys made themselves a nice trade yesterday.
Yeah, well, I mean, they jumped out in the water. I think it was a 6th for a 7th round pick for a
Yep.
swap from the Las Vegas to Dallas. I have been talking about this guy for 2 years. I kind of the talk had died down because you know what was I going to say? Oh, because we know what Dallas is. They don't really want to spend no money. 2 years ago, I think when Mike McCarthy became the head coach, and I said we need a big guy in the middle. Free agency was going around. There was a lot of free agents out there at that time, especially at the defensive tackle position. He was one of the guys, Johnathan Hankins, that I like, 6'3", 325. I got to see him. He played at Ohio State, so I got to see him intently, and I just felt like financially he would be good. He'd be the
Hmm.
run stuffer that you needed in the middle. We were light in the middle at that time, so I was like, this is a guy you need to go get. Dallas went past him. They circled around. They made the deal. I'm happy about it. I think he's 30 years old now.
Hmm.
We're not worried about him getting big sacks. We're worried about him plugging the run, holding that center and that guard so those linebackers can run free. You got the young rookie that they're talking about activating, Damone Clark. I have high hopes for him. I think a lot of people in the organization have high hopes for him. They said he's really been on it with his studying. Obviously, you're going to be a little behind because you haven't played and you're a rookie. But I think he's the type of player that once he gets action, he can be really good. He could be the thumper that we've been kind of waiting for to help kind of mic out the linebacker position because we kind of been struggling. Anthony Barnes has been okay. LVE's just been LVE. He's not doing it on a consistent basis. He's still doing those LVE things. We need somebody to come in there, and Jabril Cox is not getting any tick. We need somebody to come out there and make plays, and they can't just be Michael Parsons back there. But adding a Johnathan Hankins, now you can have a Quentin Bohanna who is playing well. He's not like he's not playing well, but he's still only a second-year player. He's still learning the ropes. Now you got a veteran who's been in the league about 10 years, who knows who knows things going on, who knows the front. You're playing with a Dan Quinn who's going to give them the opportunities. I just think it's a good signing, and it shows to me for the first time in a very long time that the Cowboys are trying to keep up with the Joneses. They're looking over their shoulders and saying, okay, we can't just sit there and say, oh, we're satisfied with what we have. We're looking at the Eagles who just made the deal with Robert Quinn. They made Brett. They went and got Bradbury. They went out and got players, and they're continuing to try to add to their team. They were looking at Christian McCaffrey as well to add to their running back. So they're serious. So Dallas can't always sit back there and say, well, we're good what we have. We're okay. No, you have to look at your competition who's 6-0 and saying we're still trying to get better. So I applaud them for at least jumping out there and saying, hey, this is a situation, this is a problem that we need to identify. We're getting a quality player. So in my eyes, I'm going to give the Cowboys front office props for something they haven't done. I didn't think they were going to do, but they did target the guy I wanted. So kudos to them.
Yeah, I think just the only thing I'll say on it, I think it's a good addition. I think for what you gave up, it certainly makes a lot of sense to do it. It's if they had done it a year or two earlier, I think it could have been more impactful. But you're like in terms of like where I feel like he was at. But he feels definitely a need. You have now the thing where I guess Neville Gallimore is doing the whole delete all references to the Cowboys and stuff from his social media. That is what it is. But I think it makes you stronger. But the thing is, it's refreshing because it's, like you said, kind of out of character for this front office to do this, to actually be like, you know what, we're not content with just being really good. We want to actually make a go for it move. Well, the Eagles have been doing nothing but go for it moves. You can go back further than the Super Bowl 2017 for them, but the very least, like, they're not content. Like, there's like, yeah, we're 6-0 at this point. We're not content. We're gonna keep adding, keep building. And we see your Hankins, and we're gonna raise you Robert Quinn. We're gonna keep making additions. We're gonna keep pressing even after that to just make this thing that much better. And that's the thing. That's what we always scream that Dallas should have done while Dak was on his rookie contract. Is like, just go for it, man. Like you keep talking about like this pie. Well, the pie doesn't get any easier to divvy up once you have to pay your quarterback, and you're not going to be in a position to just start over with a new quarterback. That's not going to fall into your lap immediately. You were lucky Dak fell into your lap when he did. So it's like they're doing it right. I feel like the Eagles are. They're being aggressive. And at this point, it's house money, right? They won in 2017. So even if this somehow blows up in their face, whatever, man. They're aggressive. They went for it. Like it's kind of like the Rams' philosophy of like, F them picks. It doesn't matter. Everyone's like, well, long term, it doesn't really work. They just keep reloading. Doesn't matter. Like, I know they're not that great this year, but it's like the whole point of all of this is not future financial flexibility. It's not saying like, oh, we want to be thinking 3-4 years down the road. You haven't won anything in a quarter century. Go in and try to win. That's all I'm saying. Like, show me you want this. Show me you care. And not just with like a token gesture, not just with an aberration in this case of a nice addition. Again, a nice addition in Hankins, but make me believe you're actually like that you're dying to win this, to get another championship. Because I still don't believe it. I just don't. It's a nice
I don't believe it either.
I think the Eagles canceled you out largely.
Yeah, I agree. I still don't believe it. Like I said, I'll give them props, for doing that. And like I said yesterday, I'm in a good place with it, but because I still know what it is. I told them I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm giving the props. So I gave maybe a lick of it or a taste of it, just because I've seen them do something that they didn't do in forever when their backs weren't against the wall. It seems like the only time they'll ever make this move is when their cries out in the world and their cries
Yep.
in the city, and then all of a sudden they're going to make the shut up signing out there. So, like you said, DDP, this is a sign of, okay, we're watching over here, but we're still don't. This is still not an all in, because we know the receiver position is still struggling. They
Hmm.
still can add. They still can add, and they have the flexibility still to be able to do it. And
Yep.
we see they need a receiver.
Hmm.
If you got a dynamic receiver right now, I think a lot
Bring
of people
Wilson
will
back.
say, yeah, a lot of people will say, okay, yeah, y'all are getting serious, because you're still going out there and trying to make moves, because that other team over there, like you said, who's 6-0, it doesn't care. They're going to try
Hmm.
to add whatever they can. They won a championship this year, and you know what they're looking at, DDP? They're looking at the NFC. The NFC
Yeah.
is not a strong. It's
Wide
not
open.
strong at all. It's super wide open. So if
Hmm.
every time you were to go all in, this is the time to do it, because this is the best opportunity you can get it. Even if your quarterback Jalen Hurts is not the guy, the NFC being mediocre,
Hmm.
they can get past it, because your team can be well rounded and you can still win a championship with it. So that's why
Hmm.
the Eagles are going in, because they see what's going on, and that's where Dallas has to say, we see this too. This is our chance. We missed it last year, but guess what? The NFC is weaker than last year. So let's go all in, put our chips in, and like just try to regain what we lost last year and try to get that Super Bowl.
Agreed. When you have that much talent on your team, even if Hertz isn't the guy, you just really need him to be a guy, especially in a
Mm-hmm.
year like this. So, yeah,
It's
we'll see
DDP.
what they do. That's
It's
DDP.
DDP. Yeah, somebody says it DDP or TDP. It's DDP.
Oh yeah, DDP, Diamond Dallas Prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Reference to the master of the diamond cutter.
Yes, sir.
Um, yeah. So we'll pivot now. Let's talk some Mavs. So again, if you guys didn't watch the videos we dropped earlier today talking about last night's game, James has his side of it, his part exclusively on his channel, and then the video on my channel is kind of a riffing back and forth between us, both of us giving our thoughts on our own individual good, bad, uglies, and mixing in some graphics and stuff like that to kind of paint the fuller picture a little bit as well. But the Mavericks are stumbling a little bit out of the gate. They're 1-2, and they should be 3-0. So there's a little. I don't know. Are you concerned at all? Do you have any concern, even though it's super early?
I'm not going to say I have concerns, but I don't have panics. So I
Hmm.
think that's where I'm at right now. I'm like panicking, like, oh my God, we need to do this, need to do that. I don't see that. But I do have some concerns with what's going on. Like we've already talked, like the JaVale McGee thing it's bothering me right now. It's bothering me. The Christian Wood needs to get more minutes is bothering me, because it's like, why are you taking them out when you need them the most? Just like again in that Pelicans game, you need them in that fourth quarter, and you see when him and Luca are together, or him, Luca and Dinwiddie are together, they are balling. Okay, like Luca
Yeah.
is playing like Luca's coming down court. He gets the rebound. Christian Wood is right next to him. Luca's
Hmm.
kicking it right over to him and moving out the way, letting him do it. So that's telling you right there, Luca's feeling him and says, okay, this dude can score. This dude is an asset. This dude can do a lot of things. He is not like saying deferring to him, but he is easily giving him the rock when he wants it now. You can see it. He has no problem when he sees Chris Wood get any
Hmm.
type of opening. He's getting them the rock on the break. You've seen on the oops, you've seen him on the pop outs. He's getting it to him on the perimeter, letting him do his thing on ISOs. So, man, if you see that kid and it's at the end of the game, who are your other offensive options right now? You stop putting Maxi Kleber in there and them guys
Hmm.
thinking that they're going to be making those big buckets. And you already saw that Bullock and Smith was already struggling. You feel
Yep.
me? And especially Bullock, he had wide open looks that he was missing that he normally makes. He was missing those wide open looks. So if he's struggling, you need to get your big man back in there who is perfect from the 3-point range right now, who's 8 for 10, shooting 80% from the field. Get him in there, because he's the difference maker in this game right now, because they don't have Brandon Ingram, or they don't have Zion
Zion
Williamson. And you
missing
making
three starters overall.
feel
Yeah.
me? And you making Valanciunas looked like a freaking all-star, JaVale McGee, and
Yep.
that kind of just pissed me off. But you got to put Christian Wood in there. He shouldn't be getting. Maxi Kleber is averaging 25 minutes. Christian Wood is averaging 26. He's only averaging one more minute than Maxi Kleber. That cannot
Hmm.
be happening. I don't care if you're trying to bring him off the bench. He's got to play more significant minutes than that. He's got to be up in that 30, like you were talking about, DDP, at least that 30, 31 range. And he's got to be in there when it counts the most, because he is your big two, big three, big two for sure. He is your second guy. I know Dinwiddie's doing his thing, but we got to understand Christian Wood is our second guy.
Oh, 100%. Offensively speaking, he is the perfect complement to Luka Doncic. Like you
Perfect.
talked about, everything he's able to do. The fact that, yeah, at 6'10", he's able to take the ball off the dribble. He's able to bring the ball up to initiate the offense. He's able to, in the pick and roll, not just roll and finish ferociously around the rim, but he can actually hit the corner man when he sucks in the defense. When the defense collapses down trying to guard against him, he can kick it out. He has good vision, good passing in those situations. And, he's a point a minute when he's on the floor. His debut, 24 minutes, 25 points. Second game, 25 minutes, 25 points. Last night, 23 points, 29 minutes. He was 23 points in 23 minutes. It's just in the fourth quarter, as we've seen this year so far in 3 games, the minutes get kind of screwy. The fact that he doesn't have a 30-minute game yet is, I think, ridiculous. I know people point to, and I mentioned it, Reggie Bullock. It took a while for Kidd to really kind of let him loose.
This ain't that type of party.
It's not apples to apples for sure. And Bullock was not your number 2 guy. This is different.
This is totally different.
I know that there are some defensive liabilities there, but I also know that when things got murky for you, when they went on the Pelicans, when they went on that 15-3 run midway through the fourth quarter, that flipped it on its head and you never really recovered, because that's been the trend in the 2 losses, right? Dallas builds a lead, they kind of pat it, and then they kind of take their foot off the gas. They don't finish the job. It's like they get complacent and they're just like, all right, let's
They
just
get
coast
very
it.
complacent, DDP.
Yeah, the difference was Phoenix, they were up 22 in the first half, and then Phoenix came back, took the lead. Dallas put them back in another hole, and then again let them off the mat. And the Pelicans, they came out running all over Dallas. Dallas defensively couldn't do anything with them. The small guards, like you said, 8 of 9 Pelican players had double figures. That's obscene. Perfect balance. I mean, legitimately perfect balance. But they're a good team. But the fact that you let them without 3 starters, let alone Zion or Ingram, beat you is not a good look. And hopefully that serves as a bit of a wake-up call. And when they went on that 15-3 run in the fourth quarter that flipped the game for good, basically, you needed Christian Wood. You needed Christian Wood and you needed to lean on him. But they didn't. They kind of took him in and out and situational usage. And that's where I think things get kind of screwy. I think it kind of throws him out of his rhythm a little bit.
It does.
And you had a lot of weird possessions too late in the game where they just kind of you had 3 or 4 possessions in the span of a 5-minute stretch where Luka was barely touching the ball. And you mentioned it, the on-ball defense, individual defense from the Pelicans, feisty as hell.
Feisty as hell.
Luka's going to get his. He got 37 points, 16 of 30 from the field, but
he was aggravated that game.
They were working him over. He was getting his points, but they were absolutely making him work for everything. And even though Luka's came into this season in the best shape he's ever been in to start a season, he didn't look like he really wanted to deal with a lot of that.
Not in that second half. He didn't want that because when they was doing that Dyson Daniels on him, because that Dyson Daniels head was 6'6", he was long, he's young, he's active, he's kind of wiry, and they put him on him, kind of just be agitate him. And then the guys they were switching, and because he put Luka fell to the ground twice when him trying to reach around and knock that ball out, and Luka's already looking back at the ref, and I'm like, bro, stop doing that, hitting the ground, and I'm actually looking at the ref. They're running down the field, running back down the court trying to score points, and you over there, stop doing that, because this is the type of game that it's going to be. And Willie Green, the coach, came out there. It kind of seemed like they came out with the plan that we are going to make Luka work and be tired. They are going to be fiercely on him. And I said going forward that if we're talking about a concern, DDP, that will be a concern for me, because we got 2 guys that are playing guard, and Dinwiddie and Luka. We know Luka. We know what he's going to do, right? But those little type of guards or those athletic guards, and they just really stick on him, that's going to be an issue of wearing him down and getting him tired. And you saw it like I saw DDP, where once he starts getting that, he doesn't want to keep going inside. He
Start
doesn't want to
going
get
to the
hit
step
like that.
back
He
threes
starts
again
doing
and
the
again.
step back three, start coming all the way down court. Don't even be looking for nothing else, and just pulling up those deep jumpers, and that throws the offense out of whack. And that's one of the ways teams can come back in it. And just to kind of bounce off you about letting the foot off the pedal, it kind of bothered me because see, they was doing this last year. They get this lead, and then all of a sudden they want to start jacking up these threes. Stop doing that. They'll get a big lead, 22-point lead. Now all of a sudden they one pass three. Luka comes down. Now you up 25. Now he wants to shoot these 27-foot threes.
Right.
Stop doing that. Run the offense, because it's like they do 2 passes and then they want to start jacking up these quick shots because they have the lead. These teams get the rebound, come right back, and the next thing you know, they're on a 8-0 run, and then they're right back in it. And then you got to start getting back to the playing the offense again. It's like, okay, you see how quick we can get right back in the game with our running our offense. So why do you deviate from it when you get this lead?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's again, they should be 3-0. They're 1-2, and I said the Phoenix one I saw coming. If you remember the show that day, I was saying this means everything to Phoenix. Dallas, they'll get up for it maybe initially, but if it gets gritty and it starts being a close game late, Phoenix wants it more because they were humiliated on their own court, and that showed out. And I think Dallas kind of like shirked their shoulders, like, oh wow, that sucked. All right, moving on. And then they thumped the Grizzlies, who, by the way, were on the second night of a back-to-back, a very fierce game the night before, and a very late
overtime.
Arrival, I think. Yep, and I think like a 3 a.m. arrival in Dallas the night before their game against the Mavs. So not idyllic circumstances. Dallas.
And they had 3 starters out, or 2 starters out.
Two, yeah.
2 starters.
And Dallas thumped the hell out of them. And I think that kind of reinforced that mindset for Dallas of like, yeah, see, Phoenix was just the aberration. Like we can get away with this. We are good enough to do this.
They shouldn't have did that. And I didn't mean to cut you. I didn't mean to cut you off, but they shouldn't have did that, because you saw when we was watching that second game with the Grizzlies, Ja dropped like 49 that game before. Yes, you knew he was going to be tired. You could see how he was playing, but I did like how they were doing it. They were playing that trap ball, take the ball out of his hands, trap him, because you got Steven Adams in the middle. And see, this was the difference too, DDP, between the Grizzlies and the Pelicans. Steven Adams is not a threat offensively. You're not worried about anything Steven Adams is doing, okay? He's not doing anything in the game for you. You're not scared of him. But Valanciunas, he can score. He can shoot the three. He can score inside. He can pass. He can get rebounds. He's a double machine. JaVale McGee, I didn't even mean to jump away from this, but he getting on my daggone nerves, because that's why they got you. You wanted a starting spot. I can't believe they promised him damn JaVale McGee a starting spot. That is crazy as heck. But bro, you got to be better. Even if you're getting these rebounds, averaging like 4 rebounds a game, they're not rebounds that we like. They're not. They're the weird, quirky rebounds. They're not the impactful or the block shots that we really need.
Yeah, it's also the fact that he's only playing like 13, 14 minutes a game, and it's because he's a defensive liability right now. Like Valanciunas, like you said, came out, and I swear it was like 8 quick points against McGee, and it was like, there's our defensive center that we got. Like the whole point of at the time we acquired him, I was like, oh, okay, this is to kind of offset Christian Wood, who's a bit of a defensive liability. That makes sense. That's a nice, I guess, pickup. Oh, you promised him the starting spot, and now Wood comes off the bench. All right, well, Wood can, enforce his will, and I think we're seeing that to major success. Right now, Wood is trying to play the game patiently, but I can tell he's frustrated. He keeps saying, like, I'm doing the right things. I'm doing what's asked of me. I think I'm good enough to be a starter. I think it's sort of an artificial thing, because he knows he's due for a big contract this summer. He doesn't want to be, even if he's 6-man. 6-man money is not going to make as much as if he was just a starter and putting up these numbers. He's probably looking at it and saying, like, I can put up 20, 25 like I am, even in the starting rotation. But this is where it's kind of like a sacrifice thing, because if you have him in the starting lineup, who's your main scoring punch off the bench?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Tim Hardaway Jr.? No, I don't want that, because he's too damn streaky, and we got no inside.
Yep.
That's when Dwight Powell has to start coming in. You have to feel like he cannot score, and Maxi Kleber is just not doing it on no consistent night. He'll do some points here and there, but you're not scared of a Maxi Kleber doing something to you if you're a defense, except maybe on the perimeter. On the inside, you're not tripping on no Maxi Kleber.
Right. So that's where the Mavericks are kind of in a hard spot. I think something. I'm not panicking, like you said. I think you put it. I liked the phrase you used earlier. I'm concerned. I'm not panicking. I'm looking at this and I'm saying like, okay, 1-2. I expected a slow start. I did.
Yeah,
I have warned about
we
a slow
talked about
start
it.
for weeks and weeks,
Mm-hmm.
just because that's what the trend has overwhelmingly been, and it's still premature. Literally one game under 500 to make that declaration now, but the kind of issues that you're seeing look like the kind of things that we've seen in the past that have taken a little bit of time to iron out. This team always seems to find its stride somewhere around December, January, and that's when the rest of the way of the season, their winning percentage is always like, oh, it's like a 49 or 50 win pace. Hey, that's great. The problem is it takes them about, a month and a half to kind of get going. So we'll see what they end up doing here. I still think this team, although it's an upgrade roster wise, pound for pound over last year's squad, I do think they have weaknesses and vulnerabilities that need to be addressed. There's not enough scoring off the bench unless you keep Wood where he is. I almost feel like they realized out of necessity they had to keep Wood there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a redundancy in the Hardaway Dinwiddie conversation. So I think Hardaway is probably going to be one of those guys at the deadline they look to move. We'll see what they end up doing. I know that they're moving in the right direction, and I know they're trying to be patient and wait till they have their draft picks again, which is fair. We've never seen Nico Harrison with really draft capital to work with, whether he wants to make a trade or whether or not he wants to actually like get real deep in the draft and try and do something there. But it's fair to want to see how that's going to pan out. But in the meantime, you still got to make adjustments. You still got to try and go do something because you can't regress too far. I'm not saying you have to be West Finals or bust this year, but you need to at least be, if you're not in the second round, it's too far of a step back, in my opinion. Like you need to be at least in the second round and at least competitive. And we'll see. I mean, every year you can't just assume, this is a cliche in sports, you can't just roll it back like it's next year. Like the next year, just roll it back and pick up where you left off. You have to start the climb all the way over. And all these little butterfly effect circumstances all across the league have to play themselves out again. So some teams, like look at the Thunder when they had Durant, Westbrook, and Harden, or even just Durant and Westbrook. They were a contender for years, but there was always something that broke against them, whether it was a Westbrook knee injury, a Durant foot injury. In the West Finals one year against the Spurs, they went to 6 or 7 games, I can't remember, and like Serge Ibaka, who was pretty crucial to them as their defensive stalwart in the middle, badly strained calf muscle, couldn't even put weight on the leg, missed most of that series. Like just things like that. You just sometimes have these weird little things that happen. So you can't just pencil it in like, oh, well, the natural progression is now this year we'll go, deeper in the West Finals or to the finals. Like, no, but at the same time, you don't want to fall off where it's like, ooh, we don't want to be Atlanta. We don't want to go from the East Finals to like, ooh, we were in the play-in and then we got thrashed in the first round. Don't. That's too far of a drop off.
Yeah, it's too far of a drop off, and like I said, they need to, they need to figure it out, and it's kind of tough right now, like you said, because Christian Wood definitely needs to be starting. It would boost, but you don't have that firepower off the bench, and I think that's what's kind of hurting right now. On that tip, you don't have that firepower, so like you said, it's like you have to keep them there. Like it's not something that you want to do. Hopefully the coaching staff, if I'm the coach, I'm telling him, look, I don't want to keep you on the bench, bro. I want to start you. But look, this is what it is. You as a player have to see our lineup right here. That if you're starting, who's coming off and doing this firepower, and then you're gonna be. This is an 82 game season, man. You're gonna get wore down. That's the nature of the game. You're gonna need some kind of a rest and somebody to give you those breather minutes. You're gonna be paying those heavy minutes, and that will cause you to wear down toward the end of the season. And then you're playing those playoffs, DDP, that's when it affects you. So I feel where Wood's coming at, But until they kind of figure out, or maybe you said like the deadline, Tim Hardaway Jr., maybe something happens. But they got to kind of figure that out because, we got a good three with the Dinwiddie, Luka, and Wood. I like it. But like there's something the dynamic there needs to be more firepower. I don't know how you feel about Beatrice. He's
Bertans?
still Bertans, he's still
Yeah.
injured. But I mean, he had a couple of decent years over at Washington. Do you think he can give us? But he's not really no inside presence. He's really more jump
No.
shooter.
Yeah,
He's really more
he's a
jump shot guy.
marksman. He's a
He's a
marksman, and he
yeah.
hasn't had a lot of consistency in a couple years. Like he'll
See,
have moments. Even in the playoffs last year, he had a moment or two. But the big money contract he landed in Washington was because he had a couple big years, and then he got paid. And I think that maybe first year he was still pretty good for Washington, and then it dropped off pretty bad. So, I mean, he was the throw-in contract. He wasn't what we wanted in the trade. He was like,
right, for sure,
hey,
for
you
sure.
want Dinwiddie? Fine, but you're gonna have to take back, you're gonna have to take back Bertans as well. Like, ugh, all right. He could have a role if you could rejuvenate him a little bit, but I think he kind of is what he is. It's good to have shooters. It is, but I don't think he's going to give you any substantial lift where you're like, oh, Bertans is back. All right, now we're back on track, and this team's suddenly winning these games that they shouldn't be losing. I don't know if it's that simple. I just think there's been a lot of roster turnover, and I think it's finding a rhythm. And I think honestly, they have to kick into that gear where sometimes a locker room can be a little too lighthearted. And like, I'm not saying they don't have the killer instinct, because I 100% know Luka has that. But I think sometimes you hear like, you'll see them like in these situations, whether it was the warm up in the West Finals last year, like all the Mavericks are walking out for shoot around, and they're like doing this like big exaggerated walk, even though they're at Golden State, and like even the fans that were there and the Warriors press team was kind of like looking at them like, the hell, who are these guys? What are they doing? What is this? And they were just kind of like goofing off. And the point was to kind of show like, oh, we're not scared of the moment. Look how lighthearted we are. Like it was kind of that sort of thing. And that when it works, it's fine, right? It's kind of like to make a baseball reference, to step out of our comfort zone. Derek Holland, former Rangers pitcher, when they should have won a World Series, when he wants to do all his like celebrity impersonations and Harry Carey voice and all that, it's fine and tolerable and even a little funny when the team's winning. When the team's not winning and he's not pitching well, you're like, dude, shut up and pitch. It's that sort of thing. So like the Mavericks, when they're lighthearted right now, and they're kind of losing their focus, taking that foot off the gas, foot off the opposing team's neck, if you will. That's frustrating a little bit to see, because you're like, I need you to keep that focus and to keep that like killer instinct. Bury them. You're in control. You're doing all of the work. All you have to do is turn in the paper, and you're somehow shitting the bed. I don't understand it. Figure it out. Like that comes from the top and works its way down. That's Kid, that's Luka. Everyone on the team has to take that personal accountability, and I think they're certainly capable of it. We just need to see them shift into that gear and stay there this year.
Yeah, well, they need to shift into it, and I think Dwight Powell needs to start getting some minutes. He hasn't played in all 3 games, and I get it. We understand what Dwight Powell is. Everybody and their mama knows what Dwight Powell is, but I don't care. They need something inside, whether it's more aggressive rebounding, more activity, because I don't feel like JaVale McGee is given the activity. I feel like he's just kind of going through. It seems like he's kind of going through the motions. I just don't like the body language way he's playing with it, because you got that 7-foot size, man. When that Valanciunas going up, man, you got to attack him, man. He was just that was just too easy what he was doing to him, and it was frustrating me. You can't allow that. That's why they signed you, to be a defensive presence. So if you're going against a Valanciunas or a big guy, you are trying to block that shot. You're moving him out of his spot. You're not letting him catch the ball that easy in the post and be able to turn around into you that easy and make a 4 or 5 foot shot. That's not why they brought you in. Okay, right. So he has to play better. And if he's not doing that, then, hey, give me a Dwight Powell that's going to play harder and be able to do that, because that dynamic's got to be better on the inside, because we were talking about the length and things of that matter, and that's why they got you. You got one of the reasons why we love Christian Wood is because of his length. One of the reasons why they got you was because of your length. When somebody goes up, you cause people to change shots because of your length. Show it, or Jason Kidd, stop trying to just stick to it because you said he was going to be a starter and it's going to be to the detriment of your team. Don't do that. Say, hey, you need to go to the bench. We're going to have to start Dwight Powell. We're going to have to figure this out and make this rotation that way.
The good thing is it's a long season. It's an 82-game season. We're 3 games in. I'm not worried. Portland is first in the West right now, last I saw, and unbeaten, unless something's changed in the last 24 hours. So I don't expect Portland to stay there. The point being, we're so early that I'm not concerned as long as this doesn't become a continual trend, as long as this doesn't become a lingering problem for the course of weeks and months. We're good. They built up a lot of goodwill last year. I'm not about to cast it away because of the first 3 games this year, in which the team looks good, but just lacks that killer instinct to finish games and put them away. Wanted to call out here before I take this question I put on the screen. Steve Lupton says, I'm a Wizards fan. Davis Bertans looked decent for a season, got paid, then exposed as a serviceable at best role player. I kind of paraphrase to add the at best. Serviceable role player, he says. That's about my impression of Davis Bertans. So getting him back, getting a shooter back, hey, he'll have games like that. He's kind of like a Charlie Villanueva was for the Mavericks. He'll come in, he'll quickly find that trigger finger, fire up 3 threes in the course of 3 or 4 possessions he's in there. And if it's a night he's hitting, then you're like, damn, dude, we got 9 or 12 points out of Bertans in 3 minutes. That's insane. And if it's a night he's not, you're like, man, he took 6 shots and went 1 of 6. And a lot of empty possessions, dude. What the hell? That's just that's the experience. So if he
reminds me of a San Antonio Spurs guy.
I think he might have played for them once, honestly.
Yeah, he looks like he would have. He'd be a perfect San Antonio Spurs guy. He looked like those type of players.
Right. Okay, so let's roll to the questions here. Guys, if you got a question, pose it in the chat. Tag either DDP, James, something. The @ symbol will help me spot it and know you're throwing a question to us. Big Fat Winner says, how bad would it have to get before the Mavericks make a dramatic move? I think they're going to give them a month. I really do. Unless it's just completely tanking, unless things are just going completely in the shitter where this team, for some reason, is again, how far? There were only a couple games, as bad as it felt last year in mid-December. They were only a couple games under 500. They were 16 and 18, 17 and 19, something like that. And then they turned it around. I'm talking they'd have to be 5, 6, 7 games under 500 to force something early. Otherwise, I think they give it a month and evaluate. And even then, even if they evaluate in that month, I think it could take until the deadline in February, early February, for them to actually say, okay, this is what we need, and we're gonna try and make it happen. But deadlines make deals, to reference Cowboys front office quote there. Deadlines make deals. So just because the Mavericks have needs, and just because it might be a situation where they're underperforming and feel that they have to do it, doesn't mean that the cavalry is immediately on the horizon. You might have to wait a little bit and figure some things out yourself in the meantime.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I mean, I'm kind of with you with that. We'll have to. I think they would go not even really a month. I said they'd go a little bit longer, just because they're going to say we have a new squad, we have a new team, we're still trying to figure each other out. So we're just not going to say, hey, let's jump out there and blow something up, or let's make some dramatic move. And we got new moving parts that we're still trying to figure out to integrate, starting lineups, mix and matching. So I think it goes a little bit longer than a month for something drastic to happen. I think it had to be something like you said, it had to be like you said, 5 games under 10 games under 500. It had to be something crazy where we're like, okay, what's really going on here? Because I honestly just don't see it being like that with the addition of Wood. I just feel like with the addition of Wood, that keeps the stability there, because he's a solid presence on that inside, and we have a really solid inside-outside game with him and Luka. So I just don't see it being like that. And with the dynamic of the team, the way it is defensively, I don't see that. But guys just need to continue to gel, and like you said, just continue to figure it out. Like I said, not panicking, but do have some concerns with the defense on the on defensive end. Offensively, I think they're doing okay, but we got to shore up that free throw shooting. I think we're only shooting 72% from free throw.
Free throws have been bad,
and especially Dinwiddie, he's doing good. Right. Well, he's been doing good in the shooting from the field and 3-point
Yep.
range, but he's atrocious from the free throw line. He's like
Mhm.
57% from free throw line right now. Christian Wood is on it, like I think like 60 something percent. So they got to
Yeah.
step up and get better.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, I saw some stat the other day, and I guess I left my phone before we started the show in the other room. Otherwise, I would pull up the screenshot. So I'm gonna wing it a little bit here. Maybe I'll talk out of my ass by misspeaking slightly, or maybe I'll sound like a genius. I don't know. Uh,
Mm.
Player efficiency ratings: Luca and Christian Wood are the top two spots. That's reason
Mm.
for optimism by itself. Like
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
combination, you've got two. I mean, obviously Wood's going to be there, right? We talk about like a point a minute, 80% this game. I mean, the guy's worst game, I think, shooting percentage wise so far has been 60%. He's getting everything, and again, he's shooting from everywhere. He's knocking down threes. He's taking the ball off the dribble. You haven't seen a lot of the mid range yet, but honestly, that's the complimentary stuff. You don't have to do that. If you can get all the way to the
Right.
rim and finish, again, free throws, like you pointed out, yes, he needs to improve. He was bad in the first game when they lost to Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
He was part of the problem. At the line, I think he was 3 of 8.
I think it was
Three of
like
eight.
3 of 8. Yeah, 3 of 8
Yeah,
or
yeah,
3 of 10, something like that.
yeah. So that's a point of concern, but I'm not worried about it. For his career, he's not a great free throw shooter. He's like 72%, something like that. Certainly lower than for the quality of shooter he is, lower than it should be. But I don't know. I think though they've got the firepower. They've got, as far as a dynamic weapon, they've never in the Luka Doncic era had a weapon like this. Never. Like this is, and I'm not trying to say like, oh, Christian Wood's a perfect player. Not at all. He's a defensive liability. He can play defense. He's capable. He'll have some good possessions where you're like, damn, dude, he
But
played
he's
that
not
really
doing it.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's not every
you
play.
see, yeah, and you can have
Yeah.
somebody because he's not a big guy.
Hmm.
Somebody can power themselves
Body him.
into him
Yeah.
and kind of embody him on the inside and really work him. If they really wanted to concentrate and do that, they could work him on the inside. So we
Yeah.
understand that's what it is. But the thing that does help him is his length. He can get away with defensively because of his length. You can have
Hmm.
those guys that don't have really a lot of girth on the inside, but that length can alter shots still with a guy who's big, and that's what helps him on the defensive end, and he uses
Yeah.
that to his advantage. It looks like in times.
Yeah, for sure. So he's the reason I'm optimistic about the offense. I do think Kid's going to eventually come to his senses and start to let him off the leash a little more. You'll probably see him push more towards that 30, 31, 32 minutes per game range. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Big Fat Winner says Wood is only 66.7% for his career at the line. That's actually a lot worse than I thought. Needs
Yeah,
to
that's
be better.
bad.
Salute for the stat check.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you've got the offensive ability to do whatever with Luca and him. You have a perfect 1-2 punch. The thing that I mentioned this in my part of Good Bad Ugly this morning. Well, recorded this morning, posted at 4. Is you're not getting enough overlap in his minutes with Luca. Luca is sitting for too long in the fourth quarter. Wood is
Mm-hmm.
getting the third quarter and the start of the fourth quarter. And while that sounds good, like, hey, we're always keeping one of them on the floor. Okay, yeah, that's good. But you want to really bring out Christian Wood's full effect, you got to get him on the floor with Luca, dude. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
got to get them together because, like, their
Mm-hmm.
efficiency, their offensive plus minus together is like a 160 something. I want to say, like, it's obscene.
Mm-hmm.
So
And they
you
flow
need
off
that.
together, and you can see it already. As I said, I really saw it, in the Pelicans game.
Yeah.
I really just saw Luka getting the ball, getting the rebound. Christian Wood right next to him. I saw it like a couple times where as soon as he got the ball, he took a couple drills and was like, boom. Kicked it right over to him, kicked right
Hmm.
over to the 3-point range, said, hey, go do your thing. You can see Luka almost saying, go do your thing, dog. Go ahead and get this money right quick. You feel me? And that's what I'm liking because, Luka's getting that trust on him early. He sees it. And that's what, if I'm excited about anything, that was the great addition. That was a great
Yeah.
addition that they brought. Jason Kidd, like you said, come to your senses, though. See, you got a dog right here. If you're going to bring him off the bench, cool. But when he comes off that bench, he need to get them crucial minutes, as you said, DDP, and
Hmm.
they need to play together. You saw how when they had the lead, they jumped out to a 16-point lead. The Pelicans did. They
Yeah.
brought Christian Wood right in. Him
Mm-hmm.
start playing with Luka. The team catches right back up and gets right back in the game, just like that.
Yep. Yep. And I'm gonna drop the one F bomb of this episode here. Part of why you got to get Wood situated, like I said, he has a strong expressed desire to start. I'm not saying you got to start him because I understand circumstances kind of forcing you to bring him off the bench. You got to play him minutes wise and situation wise like a starter. You can't, like, the reason Harden worked for a time in OKC coming off the bench was because he played 35 minutes a game and he played in crunch time every time. Like, he was not ostracized there. He wasn't out for chunks of the fourth quarter or only in like on offensive possessions in the fourth quarter where he's in, out, in, out. It wasn't that stuff. And so you already lost Jalen Brunson this past summer in free agency. You do not, for the love of all that is
Yeah,
holy,
bro, if they
want to fuck around and find out what happens if you don't have Christian Wood real happy. Because I'll tell you this, he's
you need to sign him now,
performing.
like you said.
Yes.
You need to
Yes,
sign him now.
He's performing more than well enough to get a big contract even as
Big.
is.
He gonna
It
get
might not be
money.
it might not be as big coming off the bench and playing in the circumstances he's playing now. It might not be right now today the size of contract he wants and feels he can get. I do believe that. But at the same time, if you're actually willing to play him and use him situationally, well, as if he's basically a starter like Jason Terry. Jason Terry was always in crunch time for the Mavericks, even though he was the perennial like 6-man candidate. Um, that's what they need to do. And right now, I don't feel like they're doing enough of that. He feels like, yeah, he's a 6-man, but he kind of disappears because fourth quarter rolls around. And you're like, all right, how much wood are they going to give us? Boy, that sounds sexual when you put it that way.
Ha!
But they'll do that sort of thing, and it's like I want to make sure that as good as this guy is, as dynamic as he is, as perfectly, again, offensively as he complements Luka Doncic, I want to make sure that they do not mess around and have a situation where he's like, yeah, I could stay in Dallas,
But
or I
I'm
could get
not because I
comparable
saw
money.
what y'all just did to me, and I'm good, and I'm gonna go ahead
Yeah,
and just dip on out. Yeah, stop playing around with him. Jalen Brunson already did it to y'all, but Jalen Brunson was gonna leave regardless of my opinion. I'm gonna just keep it real, DDP. I feel like Jalen Brunson was gonna leave because when I'm watching him at New York right now, he wanted to be the man. He
he's
wanted to be
averaging
the
what, like
guy.
16.
Yeah, 16 points. He's he
It's the same
almost
he averaged here.
and but he wanted to run the point. He wanted to
Sure.
be the man to run the show. He didn't
Yep.
want to share it with Luke anymore. And it wasn't about them beefing or anything like that. He wanted to run the show. He felt like I can run the show by myself. And he was never going to do that in Dallas. Never. And that's why he really wanted to go. I don't care anybody tell me.
Yeah. No, I agree. And the sign that we should have paid more attention to at the time was when it was like the morning of the final game, or not, maybe not the morning of the final game. It was after the Mavericks' last practice before game 5 against Golden State. So their last game of the season. He had all of his teammates sign his practice jersey. And given what we know about kind of how New York was fucking around, oh, I said one F bomb and I dropped another one. Bonus content. Like and subscribe. They, based on how we know New York was kind of handling things behind the scenes, I think he already had it in his mind. There's a real chance I don't come back. So at the time, we just kind of saw that and we're like, that's going to put pressure on the Mavericks at the negotiating table. But like, we almost thought of it more symbolically, I think, for the most part. We were like, I don't think Dallas lets him get away. But like, he's at least playing the hand as if it's a possibility. And then you see how it played out. And it's like, well, that sucks.
But you know what? I think this is a situation where they really don't need to drop the ball because when I'm watching this, like I said, I'm watching these guys how they're playing with each other. That's why I'm excited with Wood and Luka because this is what you've been saying with KP. This is when they try to pair KP and Luka. This is what they envision. This is what they envision. Well,
Yes.
It's right here in your freaking face. So you've envisioned this. This is what you wanted. This is what we all wanted, and it's in your face. Don't drop the ball. Go ahead.
They paid KP so prematurely. They didn't even let him suit up for a single game before he got paid. Do you think that's giving them a little bit of hesitation here for a small sample size? I'm not saying it's justified. I'm asking.
I
They gave
it
KP $158 million before he played a single game for them.
I think this is a different situation. I think this is, but
I
I
think
think
so
they're
from an
still
injury
cautious.
standpoint. Yes.
Yeah, and I think from the injury standpoint, I think they may be cautious. But honestly, DDP, if you're a GM or anything, you can see it from afar. You get what I mean? This isn't a situation where KP was already injured. They were trying to figure it out. Like, you see it with Wood, bro. Like Wood, I feel like Wood likes playing with Luka. Remember how people are like, oh, people don't like playing with Luka. It looks like to me Wood likes playing with Luka because Luka is giving him the rock. It looks
Yeah,
like
he
they
spoon
like
feeds
it.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel me? It feels like that they like it. So just stop playing around and go ahead and sign this other guy so he can be the building block. So you can build around these two. Stop play around with this.
I agree. They need to sign him. I was convinced after game 2. I was like, all right, you offensively, you're getting everything from him you hope to get from KP. And you talked about like Cuban literally when they signed or when they acquired KP in the trade, called back to Dirk and Nash, that pairing. He's like, I made this mistake once before. I should have kept Dirk and Nash together for their entire careers. That is my biggest regret as the Mavericks owner, governor, whatever. They changed the term a couple of years ago. But I'm not going to make that mistake here. Well, it's not a mistake. Other than the acquisition was a mistake. You had to roll the dice, especially for what you gave up.
Right.
But I contend maybe you should have let him just go ahead and take that qualifying offer, which he would have made like $4 million that first year. And now, granted, that's pandemic year. So your last impression would have been, ooh, bubble KP. Holy shit. Ooh, tore his meniscus and missed the rest of the playoffs. Huh. Well, the highs were really high, exactly what we thought and
really
expected.
High. Yeah.
But another knee injury. And so I don't know that it would have necessarily negated them from giving him that max contract. But nevertheless, it's like, yeah, you
It's
were
funny
willing
how
to
he's
say,
it's funny how he's good over there though. It's funny how he over in Washington.
yeah, when the
He
circumstances
healthy
and
as hell.
yeah. When the what's the word
The
I'm looking
pressure
for
is
here? Not
off
the
you.
circumstances.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The
When
pressure's
there's
off your
no
ass. Now you healthy.
pressure and there's nothing on the line, it's suddenly
Yep.
easy to throttle back,
Yep.
and to ball out because there's no expectations.
Exactly.
So but here's the thing: like you were willing to hitch your wagon to KP, literally verbally saying you're willing to do so for 20 years, based on what you thought he could do alongside Luka. We've been saying it, man. Christian Wood offensively is giving you everything you thought you would get with KP. And as Big Fat Winner points out in the chat, Wood can only sign a 4-year, $77 million extension in December. So that's what he can sign here. And he's saying, so what you're saying, Big Fat Winner, you're saying that he can sign $91 million in the offseason, but only $77 million now? Okay, if that's the case, then he's not signing now.
Yeah, that's why he's saying, why would he sign the deal now?
Gotcha.
We can get the base.
Gotcha.
I agree. Sense. I mean, I agree.
Point being,
we want him. Not
sure.
This ain't about him signing. We want him. We want him to
stay. We're willing to put a ring on it.
Right.
Yeah, but if his max even this summer is 91 million, all right, dude, we gave KP nearly twice that, not literally nearly twice that, but a great deal more than that,
money.
40% more than that.
Yes.
So it's like, again, KP was believed to be, and he clarified, 77 million now, and then in December it goes up to 91 million. Fine, sign him in December, whatever. Point being, don't wait until the offseason. If all you got to do is wait until December and give him the max he can get, fine,
give it to him.
Give it to him, because that's a no-brainer to me. Like, I know you thought KP was going to be like a 3 blocks per game guy as well. You thought he'd be the interior defense, and that's not really Wood. But KP was always the reason he's the unicorn is not because he blocks shots. The reason he was called the unicorn was because he could shoot from outside, he could throw down, he could take off the dribble a little bit. Wood is a more realized version of that, not the pinnacle of that. You see like the number one prospect now coming through, Victor. I
Well,
can't.
yeah, well, yeah.
I don't know how to say it off the top
We
of my
know
head.
who the hell he is. We all
Yeah,
know who he is.
yeah. You see guys like that, and you're like, good lord, that is the fully realized unicorn. That
That's
is
the full.
that is
He's not.
something.
He's a real unicorn.
Yeah, that is something more mythical than a unicorn. I think LeBron put it well. He's like, if people called KD and KP unicorns, this guy's just an alien. Like
Yeah,
he's otherworldly. There is nothing like him on this planet. And I was
because
like,
his body. The
yeah,
biggest thing that with me is his body. The first thing I notice when I always look at those guys over 7 foot, 7'1", how does their body move?
hmm
He doesn't have that.
he's so
That's what the
fluid.
thing. Yes, that's the thing. That's the biggest thing that stood out to me was his fluidity at that height. The way he can dribble that daggone ball at that height and the way he fluidly does it, I haven't
Yep.
seen that. And I can see why when my son sent it to me, I didn't know anything about him, DDP. My son sent it to me because my son, he's on the hoop thing.
hmm
He keeps me and I'm on it, but he was like, Dad, bam. He sent it to me. I looked at it. I said, oh, hell no. That was my first thought when I saw this dude. I was like, oh my God, I see why everybody's going crazy about this dude.
Yeah, yeah. No, he looks like the real deal. The only concern would be he's like 7'3", 7'4",
Right.
and as fluid as he is and all that, he's only like 210. Now, everyone likes to say like, well, yeah, but KD was 6'11" or whatever, and 170 pounds, couldn't bench 170 pounds in the combine, and look what he is. Yeah, and how many KDs have there ever been?
Right.
Like the exception does not prove the rule. So like I look at Victor and I'm like, dude, from what I see, he is as legit as anything I've ever seen. There is nothing like him, and I honestly have no idea how you guard him right now because whatever you want to do, the only thing I can think is you just got to body him. You just got to be physical.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it's like, okay, in the back of my mind, if I'm the team drafting him, I'm kind of wondering, okay, is his body gonna hold up? 7'3", 7'4", that's always a question mark. Your knees, your legs, your back, like the body kind of breaks down. Can he physically hold up? We're off in the weeds here, but point of
Usually
all
the
this
back,
being,
when you have that
yeah,
size, it's usually the back.
or a
That
foot, Yao
always
Ming foot,
foot or back injury seems to be really prevalent with guys really that height.
yeah. So,
Sharunas,
but
remember Sharunas, what's his name? Ilgaskis?
Zadrunas Ilgauskas,
Jordanis, remember he
former
was good.
Cavalier, yeah,
Yeah, remember he was good for those years, and then he broke that foot like 4 or 5 years in a row. It was like, and then he finally got healthy.
yeah.
So yeah, they have those foot injuries and back injuries, but we'll see. I mean, Chet went out with the foot injury, didn't he?
Who did?
Chet Holden.
Oh yeah, yeah, man, his was gnarly.
You know
I
what I
saw the
mean?
picture of his shoe off. They had to cut it off, and I was like, your foot is taking a left turn like halfway up the foot. What is this? And they're like, oh no, it's just a ligament. I was like, what? He didn't like snap it in half? No, it's just a ligament. And when that ligament's torn, the foot literally like curls weirdly inward. Like, oh, but yeah, Chet, that's a good comp because as exciting and unique as Chet is in summer league, he looked like, whoo, he
He
looks like a
looked nice.
legit rookie of the
He
year
is super
contender.
nice. Super nice.
And Victor is like 2 tiers above that. Like that's the thing. Again, we're off in the wilderness. The whole reason I brought up Victor was to say Christian Wood is not the pinnacle of that type of player, but he is a rare breed. And you have one of those when you've never had one of those. So even if he's got some deficiencies, you figure them out. You figure out how to work around it. The Mavericks had 11 or 12 straight 50-win seasons around Dirk Nowitzki when Dirk never was anything better than at best an average defender. Dirk's one move he ever learned was the strip as the guy's like collecting the ball, and those count as blocks. So weirdly, Dirk is like the franchise leader in blocks, even though I've never thought of Dirk Nowitzki as a shot blocker.
Never.
Yeah. And I think of those more as steals, but because he's gathering, they call it a block for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's just like you figure out how to work around these guys, and really it's just who you pair them with. So it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. Luka's not like a great defender. He's an average defender when he's engaged. and he can be a tick above when he's really dialed in. But you got to figure out a way to make it work, because offensively you've never had something this dynamic and this dominant to pair with him. Like, it is everything you thought with KP and then some, and you're paying it 40% less than you paid KP if you extend it. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, you need to do it and you need to make it happen. So we'll see. I'm excited for this game tomorrow. I want to see how they do with these Nets. I don't know if Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to be back, but we'll kind of just kind of see how that goes. And it's going to be, I have Kevin Durant, Irvin. It's going to be interesting to see how
Ben
that
Simmons
goes with
and his
Ben
mighty
Simmons.
6 points a game.
Yeah, Ben Simmons, but he does that defense.
I'm sorry, the dude's a fraud as a superstar.
Oh yeah, sure is. But we'll see how he does in that game tomorrow. Like I said, is that at home or is that at New Jersey?
I think it's home, but I'm not positive off the top of my head. Again, my phone's in the other room, and I could look up in another tab, I suppose, but we'll just go on my gut feeling of it being a home game, because I feel like I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a good game though. I do think that'll be a good test. I want to see how this team responds, because
it's at New Jersey.
It's away. Okay, fine. Everyone correcting me. Legit though. I appreciate it. I really do. I'm not being snarky. I'm being sarcastic to mask my insecurity. But yeah, it'll be a good test. I want to see how this team responds to a very, I'm going to say a disappointing start. Again, I thought they would have a slow start, but I'm still sitting here saying
we're disappointed because we should be 3-0. That's why we're disappointed.
When I thought it would be a slow start, I didn't think we'd be like self-destructing, and that's what it feels like so far. So I look at it and I'm like, they should be 3-0, and that makes this sting just a little bit more, because before I thought it was going to be kind of like a little bit of last year, where it's like you get some flashes here and there, but you also get like a lot of stretches where you're like, okay, they got to figure things out, but they're on the right track. I want to say, just give it time, it'll do it. No. This team looks like it. When it wants to focus and be dialed in, they'll blow the doors off you, scoring the ball. They'll lock down the hatches, and you won't get shit. The problem is you can't keep them dialed in and focused for that long. So it's kind of like, well, there's a nice quarter and a half.
Fat winner. He's funny. He's
let off the gas.
I didn't mean to cut. I keep calling New Jersey. I'm so daggone old. I've been calling New Jersey. They Brooklyn. My bad. The Brooklyn Nets. I sorry about that. I'm so used to New Jersey.
We know what you mean.
Yeah, y'all know what the hell I meant.
No.
Maybe because Brooklyn ain't doing jack poo and all that overhypedness. Maybe that's why I always refer to them as Jersey then, because they ain't no Brooklyn nothing to me.
I'm referring to them as New Jersey just because Jason Kidd was their best player and
they had a doggish team in them 2 years.
Yeah, those two teams that went to the finals.
They just came across Shaq.
Yeah, if it weren't for the fact they had to run into Shaq, well, they ran into the Spurs the second time. Shaq and then Tim Duncan.
Shaq and Tim Duncan back to back. Come on.
Yeah, that's a hard one, but Jason Kidd was an all-time great New Jersey net. Not necessarily the greatest, because they have a lot of guys that really claim that mantle. Whether you're talking,
but he was a dog with.
I don't want to talk about like KD or any of those guys. These current guys is like all-time greats.
I
had that conversation
not with
lately.
the Nets. Not with the Nets.
Not to open a can of worms as a discussion here, but this is a conversation I've had before. Do you think there is a difference between a franchise's greatest player ever and their best player ever? Are they one and the same, or are they different? Do you want me to like explain my premise of this?
Explain your premise, because I know how I feel it. I'm thinking in my head, but I wanted you to explain.
They can be one and the same. They are not always one and the same. I would argue that the best player, for instance, in Thunder history is Kevin Durant, no question. The greatest player, I would argue, is Westbrook, because he was there longer. He showed the loyalty to the franchise. So when I think greatest, I think of the guy that's like, whether it's best remembered or contributed the most, the guy who really staked his career there. Kevin Durant has been gone from OKC so long now that like that's just a chapter in his book. And I know Westbrook's obviously been gone around several teams the last
So
few
would
years,
that
but
be? So
he
let
is
me ask you
considered Mr.
this.
Thunder.
So let me ask you this then. So let's say like the Boston Celtics. Let's just name two players.
Okay.
Would Bill Russell be their greatest player ever, and Larry Bird their best player?
Yes, I would agree with that premise. Because greatest, I'm thinking that the total titles with Russell has to stand tall, but Bird is a better player. So yes, I would agree with that.
Okay.
But that was the
Okay.
debate I got into with someone.
Okay.
This was
Cool.
literally a conversation I got into
That's
like
why I
2
was
years
trying to
ago.
compare it. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Cool.
like 2 years ago, I got into this conversation with someone, and they contended they were one and the same, and I was like, no, they're different. Like in Dallas's case, yes, Dirk for both, of course. Maybe now some people might argue Luka. I think that's still premature, but it's like no. When you look at some of these teams, like you look at, for instance, if a guy goes to let's say an all-time great player goes to a new team in one of his last years in the league. Well, he's the best player who's ever played for them in terms of his total career. But did his
But he's not
contributions
that
to that
great.
franchise make him the
Right.
greatest player in that franchise history? No.
No. Right.
So
You have to
that
have you
was
have to have that background.
mhm.
You have to have that work. You have to be there a long time. You have to damn near go there and retire there.
Yeah, which
You know what I'm
is
saying?
why, or at least like in the case of like Westbrook, like I contend for the
Yeah.
Thunder is stay there, show loyalty not once but twice, and
Right.
win an MVP,
Right.
stuff like that. LeBron in LA, good example
Yeah,
as
that's a
well.
good example
Best
right there.
best player because again we're talking probably the second best player of all time. Some would argue the best, but he's certainly not the greatest. So the greatest Laker just based on career contributions.
I ain't giving
So
him even one of the best of all time either. I love LeBron, and I love what he's done, but I've seen other players and especially
yeah, right. So
mm.
anyway, that's just a kind of an interesting discussion debate. Honestly, that feels like something we could always just riff off of a video if we wanted. If we wanted to literally, and it would take some research. So who knows availability wise what that looks like. But like, I almost feel like that would be a fun list to break down, like franchise by franchise. Who's the
Mhm.
best? Who's the greatest?
That would
Would
be
be very
dope.
contentious, but I feel
That
like
would be
that would.
yeah.
I feel
That'd
like
be
there would
super
be interest in
contentious.
that. Yeah.
Especially when you hit them Lakers and them Celtics and them type of
Hmm.
squads. That's when it gets dicey because they done had all kind of greats.
Yeah. Exactly. So anyway, that was my non sequitur at the end where something reminded me of that, and I was like, I'm gonna steer this away off track for like another 4 or 5 minutes just before we wrap this up. So
Yeah. Well,
maybe we'll look to do that if
Steve
you guys
Lumpton
want to.
said do it. So we'll put it into work. So that ain't something that we're doing overnight because that's gonna have to be putting in
Yeah,
work. But what we'll do is tell y'all right now that that is gonna get done eventually. We're gonna preview that and we'll just keep y'all abreast of when we're gonna really kind of drop it because we'll be in cahoots talking about behind the scenes and getting it together because we ain't gonna want to just throw it out there. It's got to be
yeah,
good and it's got to be right. So
yep,
definitely look for that on the horizon. Definitely getting excited about that. Continue to support both our channels, the Dallas Prospect, DDP, myself, Big Game James. You saw we're 3 games in. We got the game tomorrow with the New Jersey Nets at New Jersey. Going to be excited to
at
see
Brooklyn.
the bounce back at Bro.
Yeah, see how the team bounces back and responds to not one but two disappointing games in the first little handful
Brooklyn.
here,
Brooklyn's in the house.
or
Brooklyn
rather, we're
is.
in Brooklyn's house. We'll see how this goes, but it's going to be fun. We'll be back on here again. Look for these good, bad, uglies. We're going to keep playing around with this formula a little bit, but we do like the premise of what we got here. We're going to probably find a way to do this in a more quick format thing where we can turn these around quicker. Um, but yeah, you'll get post game shows from us the morning after games where we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly of whatever the outcome was, whatever happened the night before. We will give you that feedback. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, be on the lookout for it. Get ready for it. Like I said, we'll be probably maybe doing, if we do like a big game, we'll try to get a watch party game going on. Was one of those kind of significant games that we maybe kind of feel like, hey, this is a game we might want to go live on because this could be that kind of game. So make sure, like I said, just keep on tuning in. We're always brainstorming behind the scenes of what we can do better and what we can add to each of our channels and how we can make this continue to be great. So just continue to support us. You know, we got the NFL going on with these Dallas Cowboys, but I'm be honest with y'all, the way we rocking this, I really like this basketball thing. You know, we doing them Dallas Cowboys, but I really love how we rocking this Mavericks thing, and I think it's going to get even more fun as we get into the meat of the season, especially with the new additions that we got, so we can see how the
Yeah.
team is really working, and me and DDP can kind of bounce off each other with it. I really love how we did that good, bad, and the ugly. How you really cut that off. I know obviously that was a lot of work on your end, but I really like how you put that together. And like you said, continue to look and see how we're going to continue to do that. Because I think the more y'all look at that and see that, I think y'all like it. And so just go out there and support it. And if you know any other Mavericks fans out there, man, feel free to tell them, hey, there's a
Share it.
Mavericks show every Wednesday. Positively Relentless, man. They're talking good Mavericks basketball. Tell everybody y'all know out there so we can continue to grow out there. It doesn't grow with us, it grows with you guys too. So the more word of mouth you guys spread out there, retweet us when we tweet out there, and if you guys are following us on Twitter, retweet our shows, retweet what we're going, let everybody know we're talking Mavericks basketball. The more people put the word out for us, the bigger this thing gets, and the more we can kind of show the world what we're talking about with these Mavs. So let's get
Yeah,
out there and do it, man.
for sure. Check out the show on the podcast rather, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever your podcast of choice is. If you ever miss the show, miss part of the show, yeah, you can check us out on YouTube. That's cool. But you can also check us out there as well. Sometimes I know some days like you're driving more often. That's an option. You might not be able to watch YouTube, load it that way. You can always pull up the podcast that way. And I wouldn't recommend it while driving in the case of like the video component being there, but like the video component is there. So just what you see here literally pulls up even in Spotify. Like we have it set up for that. What you get here is the same experience you get there. But if you miss it, that's just another option to be handheld, if you will, to catch up on the show and be up to date. So support the show however you want. Everything is greatly appreciated. We will be back next Wednesday, but we will be back well before that as well, talking some of these Mav games. Be on the lookout for that. And until next time, guys, salute.